You know the vibes. Welcome back to another episode of the Hoop Genius podcast presented by NBA 2K23. As always, if you don't yet have your copy, make sure you hit the link in our description. Also in the description, sign up and join the Discord. It's completely free in case you're worried about all that stuff. Join the Discord where you can join the conversation with myself and a bunch of our community where we talk all things NBA and other basketball things, other basketball leagues and all types of things. So get involved over there. Me and BJ are back once again. NBA Media Days are still going on. Training camps are beginning. But we're going to circle the block and get back to our series in which we were going through all 30 teams in the NBA and talking about their off seasons. So today, we're talking about the Brooklyn Nets. We've talked a lot about them and it was always about trades and stuff like that. But we're going to look at some of the moves they made, who they lost, who they signed. But BJ, just from an outset, are you excited to see this Brooklyn experiment part number 3, or is it part number 4 at this point?
Well, just as I'm excited to see them, just as excited as I am to see you with this Jimmy Butler's haircut. Since yesterday, no. I can't get it out of my mind. I'm looking at you right now, thinking, I want to see Mo with the twist. In saying that, I just want to throw that out there. I'm not excited. I want to see them play basketball and figure out how to play together. I mean, it's taken them 3-4 years now, and they still haven't put together a stretch of games. And I say a stretch, an 82 game schedule where they find rhythm. I mean, you'll see it for 5 or 6 games, and then you'll see them patch together some things. Let's put together some rhythm. Now, Kyrie, KD now are clearly the leaders, the best players on the team. And now they've surrounded them perhaps with one of their better teams over the last 3 or 4 years. They have a lot of veterans and, players who can play and perform, play at a high level. And let's see how it works out. But I am not holding my breath. I'm not saying I'm picking this team. However, if things do come together, you have to give them respect. But that's a big if right now in Brooklyn.
Well, the last 2 years, I picked Brooklyn before the season began, and they failed miserably. So as a true hater, I'm going to pick Brooklyn again this season just to hope that they fail. But in all seriousness, let's look at who they've lost. LaMarcus Aldridge is a free agent currently. Don't know if they're going to bring him back or where he's going to find a home. Bruce Brown signed a free agent contract with the Denver Nuggets. Goran Dragic joined the Bulls as a free agent. Andre Drummond also joined the Bulls as a free agent, and Blake Griffin is still a free agent. And in terms of players they brought in,
no, I thought he signed with the Lakers. Didn't he sign with the Lakers?
Did he? That would be news to me. I don't think that they signed. Nope. Who is going to sign Blake Griffin? He's still out there.
I thought he's...
Maybe I'm mistaken. I don't think he signed because I didn't see him at Media Day yesterday with the Lakers. But they have added Chris Chiozza from the Warriors, Markieff Morris from the Miami Heat, as I told you my theory about the Miami Heat's horrible offseason yesterday, Royce O'Neal from the Utah Jazz, Edmund Sumner as a free agent, TJ Warren from the Pacers, Yuta Watanabe from the Raptors, Alondas Williams, and Mark Zegarowski. And then they've re-signed Nick Claxton, David Duke, Kessler Edwards, and Paddy Mills. And the important news is they talked Kevin Durant, or I don't know if they talked him out of his trade request or forced him out of his trade request, and they got Kyrie Irving to opt in for 1 more year in Brooklyn. BJ, how unsettling is it for a team to have their 2 star players demanding to leave the franchise almost during the offseason and then them being forced to actually stay?
Well, I think there's no way around it. This was a very awkward summer for the Brooklyn Nets. However, I don't think it's unprecedented as far as player or players demanding trades or upset or what have you. I just think it's the new NBA where we're seeing things happening in real time out front, especially with social media. So, it was very unsettling. It has to be, right? For the team, for the owners, players. but they figured it out. They appear to to play nice in the sandbox with everyone on day one. And I'm sure there's nothing that, a few wins can't solve because they have the talent to do it. Now, the big question is, I think, you, me, and others that covers the NBA, I don't think anyone is expecting them or picking them with the same expectations as even a year ago or 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's changed. Now we've said, okay, we've given this experiment a couple years now. We don't think it's going to work. And maybe that's the recipe that they need, that brings this group together. We keep waiting for Kyrie, we keep waiting for KD, and it hasn't happened. They had James Harden there. It hasn't happened. And the one kid, Joe, what's his name?
Joe Harris.
He got hurt, right? Joe Harris got hurt.
Should be back.
Is he coming back? Is he?
He should
be back
be
healthy this year. Okay, Joe is coming back. They have talent. Don't make no doubt about it.
Fully
if they
cleared
can stay
for
healthy,
training camp.
Yeah, if they can stay healthy and somehow improve on the defensive end, I think their style of play is the biggest thing for them. Is how they're going to play. Without, there's no doubt about it. They can score points, but they're going to have to figure out how to defend and integrate and play a nice, blended style of play.
I'm going to talk about our defense in a sec. But the other thing about their star players demanding out is their best player, Kevin Durant, not only demanded out, he demanded that the general manager, Sean Marks, be fired, as well as the head coach, Steve Nash, be fired, neither of which actually happened. Do you think that locker room is going to be quite awkward, knowing that the star player does not want the head coach to be there? Do you think that they're going to even listen to what Steve Nash has to say?
No, that's nothing new. I don't think that's anything new. That's probably half of the NBA right now. That's probably half of the NBA. Okay. And, very rarely will you have an entire team that agrees with the coach. Okay, the coach can only play 5 guys at a time. So that leaves a minimum of 7 guys over there going, man, why aren't I in the game? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reality of the NBA. So I think right now they are, as a group, going through their growing pains. And if they can right this ship and, Coach Nash can figure out how to continue to lead this team, it'll correct itself. However, if that doesn't happen, I think they have a very short leash or I think their window of opportunity it's beginning to close a little bit.
Yeah, because the consensus is that Kyrie will not return. The Lakers have got Russell Westbrook still, and his contract comes off the books next season. And the expectation is that Kyrie Irving will join the Lakers in free agency to team up with LeBron James once again. But let's talk about that Nets defense that you talked about. Now, looking at their depth chart, looking at their projected starting lineup, I think it is an upgrade this year. Kyrie Irving, obviously not a great defender, but Joe Harris, who can hold his own. Kevin Durant, a long wingspan, very tall, 7 foot at that small forward position. Ben Simmons, who we know when he plays can be a defensive player of the year candidate, and Nick Claxton protecting the paint. I like that defensively in comparison to what they've rolled out before. I think Ben Simmons, if he plays, because nothing is guaranteed in this league, but if Ben Simmons plays, he has the chance to, well, I said this on my stream yesterday for you guys who don't know, I stream on Twitch, play a bit of 2K over there. But I said Ben Simmons is my pick for most improved player because all he has to do is get on the court, and he's already the most improved because he didn't play a single game last season. That's why I think the NBA should have a comeback player of the year award, but that's besides the point. Ben Simmons, the last time we saw him fully healthy, was coming off a season in which he was considered a top 2 candidate for defense player of the year. He can guard 1 through 5. He's an extremely strong athlete. He's got quickness for his size. So he can take on the challenge of guarding the other team's best players, the Giannis's of the world, the Jason Tatum's of the world, which takes a little bit of pressure off Kevin Durant. And then Nick Claxton in the paint protecting the rim. Obviously, with Simmons and Claxton on the floor at the same time, your shooting and spacing isn't optimal. But with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, the offense is always going to flow. And then you've got Joe Harris, you've got guys like Patty Mills and Seth Curry, who are elite 3-point shooters. You've got Royce O'Neal, who can shoot the 3-ball. You've got TJ Warren, who can come in off the bench, get you some buckets. Cam Thomas as well, developing a nice young player. What are your expectations for their defense and the impact that Ben Simmons can have on the defensive side of the basketball?
Well, I'm just going to get right to it, because I feel like I spent so much time dissecting this team over the years, and we just keep talking about things off the court.
But it's a new look team now.
So
yeah, not dissect
potentially it could be, but based on what I know about Coach Nash, they're going to want to play fast, which I think is going to compromise their defense. Mm-hmm. Okay, because I don't see them being a very patient offensive team. I don't see this being a team that's going to come down and swing the ball from side to side or, move the defense. I think they're going to come down, get the ball to their best player and play out of it, right? They'll have three options for sure they can play through. You can play through Ben Simmons because of his ability to pass, and he's big and he can penetrate and break down the seams. And the thing that's going to be interesting about Ben Simmons is that he doesn't have to worry about being double teamed playing with Kyrie and KD. Of course, you have KD and Kyrie, but here's the thing that I'm kind of intrigued with by watching them as I'm talking here. How are they going to play? Because I don't see Ben Simmons suddenly being a spot up player.
No.
I don't see Ben Simmons suddenly just being a post player. I don't see Ben Simmons suddenly playing without the ball in his hand. I've never seen him play without him having the ball as a primary ball handler. Mm-hmm. And to me, this is going to be either a very awkward situation for Ben Simmons, which he's just going to literally probably have to stand in the corner and be forced to at least shoot the basketball. Whether or not he makes it, that's another topic. Or they're going to have to run some type of unique offense to get him in the play, moving the ball, right? Utilizing screens and so forth. So I don't know how they're going to do it. Now, I know there's things every year coming out, how he's improved his shooting and improved his playing, but I'm really interested to see how they're going to play and utilize him, incorporate him in with this group, and see if it can work. He's clearly he's a talent, no doubt about that. But sometimes, you get to teams or talent where it doesn't fit. You got him, Ben Simmons, you got Kevin Durant. Okay, that's a 7-footer and 6'10". Then you got Kyrie, you got Joe Harris, and then I'm assuming they'll probably put a big with that, right?
Yeah. Nick Claxton.
So then we go from there. Now, I don't know how this is going to work, really, Mo. I really don't know.
Off the top, you would assume that in transition, they're going to have Ben Simmons pushing the basketball, really attacking on the inside and collapsing the defense for the shooters of the Brooklyn Nets. In the half court, you've got options to use him as a roll man in some screen roll action. You can have him down in the dunker spot, but then you can't really play another big and Nick Claxton alongside him because you've got two players that are unable to stretch the floor. So it's going to be tricky to figure it out. I'm not sure how confident I am in Steve Nash being the man to figure out a scheme in which they can get this offense going, given how badly he coached that first round series against the Boston Celtics. But now that their roster looks kind of set, there's no more, is James Harden going to demand a trade? Is he not? There's no more, can Kyrie Irving play? Can he not because of the different restrictions? I believe he can now play everywhere except for Toronto. Kevin Durant is back healthy. Joe Harris is back healthy. So they should have a little bit more consistency going into this. Do you think that they're going to be a team that has a great regular season and carries that into the playoffs? Or do you think that, given that they're a bit more of a veteran squad with KD and Kyrie, they're going to kind of coast the regular season and then turn it up a notch in the playoffs, or try to, at least, because they were doing very well in the regular season up until Kevin Durant's injury last season, in which they plummeted with him out of the lineup?
Well, I think a lot of that depends on Ben Simmons. I think they're going to need a significant contribution for Ben Simmons to get through the regular season. Why do I say that? It's because you're putting so much pressure on KD and Kyrie on the offensive end. We know that those guys are going to be able to score. I don't care what offense they run. You don't even have to run a play. Those guys can get 20, 25. If you run a play, set them some screens, they'll probably get 35, 40, 50 points. Those guys are very capable offensive players playing and breaking down the defense, double teams, triple teams, so forth. I mean, they are that elite on the offensive end. However, if they can somehow integrate Ben Simmons to be a contributor with this team and fill a void, a la a Draymond Green, where he can contribute, meaning he can facilitate and really allow them to take one or both of the guys off the floor and play through someone through stretches of the game. I think this team has a real chance. Now, that's a big if, but I think Ben Simmons has to assume an identity on the team. And there's a huge gap that we all know that needs to be filled. And that's the defensive presence. So if he could feel that and hold everyone accountable on that end, then I think he's able to do the next thing, which is you got to defend, you got to rebound, and then you got to pass the ball. He does all three of those things very well. Now, if he can assume a leadership position where he's the best defensive player on the team, because he should be, he can rebound the basketball because he'll be in rotation, so forth and so on. Okay, he'll do that. And then he's one of the guys who will rebound the ball and push it out. Now you got KD and Kyrie running and Joe Harris and these guys spacing the floor. Now you're talking about something because he's imposed his will on the team. Because those other guys, when they do run plays or the offense gets stagnant, you can run plays from those two guys depending on who has a better matchup that night, because those guys are very capable of exploding at any given time. Now you're talking about a team. And if Ben Simmons can do that, now you're talking about something you're saying, okay, because there aren't many teams in the league where their third option will have the talent of Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
That's pretty good now. If he can figure that out, or they can figure that out, now you're talking about something. So on talent alone, those two guys, Kyrie and KD, they'll be able to beat half of the league teams in the league. The better teams, I think they'll struggle with, because the other teams will have more discipline. They'll defend. They'll force them to shoot a high percentage. And both of those guys are 3-point shooters, so forth and so on. Now, those guys are always capable of getting hot too. But I don't think consistently they can beat the better teams in the league if they're not playing a nice blended brand of basketball.
So it's interesting you mentioned Draymond Green, because if you remember back a couple of years ago on our show Heat Check on Sky Sports, that was fun. I actually proposed before whilst James Harden was still in Houston, I proposed that the Nets actually trade Kyrie Irving for Ben Simmons. And the reason why was that I believe Ben Simmons could fill that Draymond Green role. Now, if we look at the two teams, you've got a dynamic point guard who can score the basketball, Kyrie Irving, Steph Curry. You've got a shooting guard that can play defense and shoot threes at an elite rate, Joe Harris, Klay Thompson. You've got Kevin Durant. And then at power forwards, you've got Ben Simmons, Draymond Green. And then at the center spot, the Warriors obviously had the advantage. They had Bogut back there when KD was there, and he's obviously a great playmaker in comparison to Nick Claxton. So I can see some level of similarity between that Warriors team, which Kevin Durant played on, and Steve Nash was an executive coach for, who used to work closely with the players. So I do believe that that is the kind of role that they will try to get Ben Simmons to fill, because Draymond Green is not exactly a prolific three-point shooter either. So I think that they're going to take some elements from the Warriors playbook potentially and have Kyrie Irving getting more involved off the ball to get him easier opportunities off the catch, rather than have him orchestrate the entire offense. Because like when James Harden was there, they said James Harden's the point guard, Kyrie Irving's the two guard. Now Ben Simmons can be the point guard, Kyrie Irving can still play off the ball and get easier looks once the defense is in rotation and whatnot, to get easier matchups to go score. So how much of that experience of KD and Nash's involvement with the Warriors do you think that they can copy over?
Well, I think they just have to figure out how to get these guys all to play together and play and have a nice balance on the court. I just think by looking at the team, I think you have to look at how you're going to integrate Ben Simmons and put the ball in his hand, because he really is he's a willing passer. I mean, he can break down the defense, and that's where he's most effective. Now, KD needs his touches. Kyrie needs his touches. But I think Ben Simmons is arguably the best passer of the group.
Mhm.
So putting him at the 4, it's a positionless league now, makes total sense to me. But can he assume that role? The players have to figure out how they're going to play with one another. And, Ben Simmons has been an all-star in this league. And if you watched him throughout his career, he's always played with the ball. So I think having him play off the ball probably would be new to him. And I think there's something they have to figure out now, whether or not it's the exact like the Warriors, I don't know, but surely I think if you put Ben Simmons at his size, his athletic ability, and allow him to match up as a bigger player on the defensive end, or however they're going to utilize him, I think gives them an advantage. I mean, I think they need an advantage. Whatever it is, Mo, I think they're going to need the following: how to have Ben Simmons contribute to the offensive end by not just being a spot-up player.
Yeah.
Well, he's got to be a threat somehow. And I think the best threat for him to be is a guy who rebounds the ball, pushes out the break. You can run the offense through him to move the ball from one side to another, allow him to be the screener, roll, either finish at the basket or find shooters in the corner. So I think it makes sense. And if they took some, form of that from the Warriors, I think that's a good start for him.
I mean, for me, the ideal role for Ben Simmons is to have him on the court with 4 shooters. So playing Ben Simmons as the center and have him almost running a point center. I'd put Seth Curry in at the 2, Joe Harris slides up to the 3, KD slides up to the 4, because that way, like you say, he grabs the rebound, goes, collapses the defense, gets out to the shooters. But even in the half court, if you've got Ben Simmons orchestrating the half court offense with that many shooting options, spacing the floor, because the struggle for him in Philly was that essentially relegated Joel Embiid to a spot-up shooter, because Joel Embiid wants to be on the inside, but they've got him standing around the perimeter. But if you take the option away, clear out the middle completely for Ben Simmons, because let's be honest, he can still get to the rack. Even if you are sagging off him, there are ways in which you can still get to the rack and either score the basketball in the lane or force the double team or help defenders come over, and you can hit one of your guys who's on the perimeter, then the defenders are closing out. I think that would be the optimal way. What's interesting to me about the Brooklyn Nets, though, is it's not just those starting guys. They've got a few interesting players on the bench now that have not been healthy. Joe Harris coming off an injury, but of course, TJ Warren, we've not seen him play basketball almost since the bubble. He's been struggling with injuries. Markieff Morris as well, ever since he had that incident with Nikola Jokic, hasn't really played. But if those two can play and play to the level where they played before, they're 2 very high-level rotation players coming off your bench. Seth Curry coming off your bench. Patty Mills, who could be a 6th man of the year level talent coming off your bench. Royce O'Neal, who's just come from Utah. I think they've got a 9-man rotation. Whatever your thoughts are on Cam Thomas, they could even have a 10-man rotation. That's actually very strong. So the Nets actually have some level of depth now, some level of improvement on their defense, and their offense is still going to be ticking over. So I'm quite high on the Brooklyn Nets the more that I think about it. I don't know what to think and where they're going to finish. Do you have any insights, any predictions as to where you think the Brooklyn Nets
Well, when you look at their talent, you're going, this is one of the top 4 teams in the conference. However, based on what we've seen, we can only go by what we've seen. This team hasn't put it together over the last 3 to 4 years for various reasons. Most of all, it's been because of injuries. Players' inability to get on the floor, availability. Now, if those guys are able to stay on the floor, when you talk about the quality of players that you just named, you're talking about Seth Curry coming off the bench. You're talking about Patty Mills. You're talking about Markieff, right? Markieff.
Yep.
Coming off the bench. Royce O'Neal, who's been a starter for many years in this league. When you start talking about those players, and then you can slide KD, Kyrie, or Ben Simmons with the second unit, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Now, again, Mo, I'm going to take a wait and see approach. Like, we've been waiting for them for a couple years, and it hasn't happened. But if they can stay healthy, if we can figure out how. That's a big if. Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is still coming off. Well, I don't want to forget this, and I want to make sure Ben Simmons is coming off back surgery.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to see. He hasn't played, so we're assuming that he's just going to come back and play. And now, hopefully, that's the case. But that's a major surgery. It's going to take him some time, and hopefully, you'll see him, because he's a very active player and very athletic, very fast. And if he comes back and they can gain a rhythm where they play 25, 30 games in a row with this group, now you're talking. Well, you're talking about something. I like what they have on paper.
Where do they finish this season?
I think they finished third or fourth.
And then in the playoffs, how far can they go?
I think it's realistic for this team to get to the conference finals. I really do. I really do. I don't think their consistency, is as good right now as Milwaukee. I don't think they're consistent as Philadelphia. Up until the recent thing with the Celtics, I thought the Celtics were ahead of them because they had a style and a system of play.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if their talent is able to come together and utilize this 82-game schedule to play and find their rhythm and find their flow, this is a very, very dangerous ball club because of the talent. And they have talent and they have depth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a lot of depth over there, And I mean, you're talking about adding Ben Simmons, you're talking about adding Joe Harris to the mix. I mean, those are quality players, okay? And I think if you can add those two players to any roster, I think you're going to be a little better. If they can find flow, rhythm, space on the floor, and how to operate. Now, Kyrie's going to be there full time. I'm liking what I'm seeing, but that's a big if. That's a big if. We're talking about the Nets, and as they say, this is the NBA. Something's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen, but something's going to happen, and we'll go from there. We'll be there to talk about it. That's for sure.
You never know. Well, BJ, while we're talking about Brooklyn, I want to stay on Brooklyn, but go slightly off track just a little bit. We talked about Zion Williamson yesterday. Don't owe me. You don't even know what I'm going to say. I'm going to talk about something that you sent me at what time did you send me this? At 2:57 a.m. So don't owe me. This is what you sent to me. Okay. Zion Williamson, we spoke about yesterday, did his press conference, and he talked about Brooklyn's very own, the notorious B.I.G., on how Biggie's Ready to Die album helped him with his resiliency. This is the clip.
Me, the notorious B.I.G. album, Ready to Die. That album lyrically, how he talked about stress, what he was dealing with, just feeling the weight of the world on your shoulders, and you feel like you're standing alone. That album really helped kind of shift my mindset and just finding true resolve within the game. I'm 22. I've been through a lot in the past years, some change. Some things you wish didn't happen, but from that album you just learn, and that's life. Things are gonna happen, and you just gotta roll with them.
So that was the album that inspired Mr. Zion Williamson. So my question to you, PJ, is if you had to pick one album, if you were going to spend the next year getting in shape to play in the NBA, and you had to pick one album to keep you inspired, which album would that be?
That was a very interesting clip. That comes right off the top. I have one album because it's always, whenever I get into my work mode, I always have to think of, obviously got to have talent, but it's business.
Mm-hmm.
And the title of my album would be Paid in Full by Eric B. and Rakim.
Yes,
because you know what, folks? thinking of a master plan. Ain't nothing but sweat and socks. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. That's another show. Okay,
I hear it.
If you not thinking of a master plan, if you
Mm-hmm.
not putting in that work, then what else is there to talk about? Mo?
I ain't no joke. I'll tell you that one.
Mo, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Mo, you know what I'm saying? So,
I hear it.
My man said, I took 7 in C's and put them in a line. You know what I'm saying? Mo, that's what I'm saying, Mo.
Okay.
Whatever you
That's
bring,
your go-to.
It fits everything I'm doing. It puts me right there. You know what I mean? But whatever you need to get yourself ready. Whatever you need to get yourself ready.
Do you know what I would pick?
Yeah, what would you pick?
Can you guess? What do you think? You know me quite well. What do you think I would pick?
Probably gonna go with some grime music though, and I'm not as familiar.
We'll keep it US. We'll keep it US.
I'm not as familiar with the grime.
We'll talk about grime another
just
day.
Get caught up on the grime.
I need you to get to London before we talk about grime. You know what I'm saying? But we'll keep it US right now. Do you know what album?
You know what I mean? Because I got to get up on this, my man. What's my man? Akala? Is that my man?
Akala? Yeah.
So I got to get caught up because you sent me that. I'm like, okay, I'm feeling him.
I sent BJ some Akala yesterday. I've sent BJ a bunch. I sent him some Nine, some Paper. That's more hip hop, but you know what I mean. We'll get to it. But do you know which album I'll pick? US album.
You probably gonna pick Jay-Z.
No,
Politics as usual. Wow, you know what I'm saying?
See, I was thinking of a Hove album. I've had that whole verse on repeat. You know his verse on DJ Khaled's album that dropped recently. I've had that verse on repeat.
Oh,
when I went to see BJ out in LA, BJ took me to his office, and the one lyric from Jay-Z today goes, "Judge us how you judge." He said, "We just corner boys with the corner office." And I was like, damn, judge us how judges say we go in corporate. No, we just corner boys with the corner office. And then I went to BJ's office and he's got the corner office on the top floor. The album I would pick is the album I listen to every day of my life. And that is Victory Lap by Nipsey Hussle.
Oh, really?
Every time you want to get in the right frame of mind, just how the album begins.
Okay.
I'm prolific. So gifted. I'm the type that's gonna go get it. No kidding. Just straight off the bat of that.
I respect that.
Victory Lap. That's the gospel.
I respect that.
Let us know on social media what albums you guys like to listen to. Do you know my favorite album to listen to though when I hoop? Do you know my favorite one to put on? You won't like it.
What's that?
Dirty Sprite 2 by Future. When I've got control of the speakers in the gym, I put on Dirty Sprite 2. I just your some Gucci flip flops. That just gets me in the mood.
My go-to when I was younger and I was playing was Criminal Minded. That was my, because, and the reason I love that is because, you know, there was
KRS-One, right?
Oh, KRS-One, the Blast Master, you know, the teacher, you know what I'm saying? But I love that because there was the person and then there's a player. And the player was always different than the person. And it was just, it just got me where I needed to be. You know, I always play that in the car. I wouldn't listen to it any other time other than on game day. That was my go-to, the Blast Master, because he was teaching. You know what I mean? He was teaching.
I hear it.
But yeah, we could go on, man. That's beautiful though. But yeah, if I had one, Eric B and Rakim, shout out. Shout out to the Seventh Seal. Shout out to the Seventh Seal.
Well, That was another episode of the Hoop Genius podcast. We're going to keep breaking down each and every team as the season gets closer. We're going to have to start maybe doubling up some episodes, though, doing 2 teams in one. So stay tuned and stay ready for that, because the season is approaching faster than you might think. We're less than a month away, about 3 weeks away now.
We got games this Friday, right?
Yeah, we got the Warriors and we got the Wizards. And then we got
the Clippers, right?
Oh, yeah, the Clippers are playing Maccabi Rananana. I don't know what the deal is with them, but they're playing as well. And then we've got preseason beginning. Grizzlies and Bucks, Wizards and Warriors playing again in Japan. And then we got a whole bunch of preseason. We're going to see the Celtics take on the Hornets. These are nice early tip-offs for the UK audience as well. That'll be 6 p.m. UK on Sunday.
Nice.
I can't wait. But anyway,
Beautiful.
It's been another episode. Make sure you hit the link in the description, get your copy of NBA 2K. Make sure you hit the link in the description to come and join the Discord, come and join the conversation, where you can find the channel to suggest topics, questions, hot takes, trade proposals for BJ and I to react to live on the show. So make sure you get involved in over there. And until next time, you guys know the vibe. Share with a friend, tell a friend, follow, leave a review, leave a rating, all that good stuff. And most importantly, get buckets.